Bits.
Yo, what's up, Hobby Maniacs? MBG here today with my latest tutorial. I hope you guys really enjoy this one. I can't think of a more frustrating kit when it comes to the Warhams than the Space Marine Drop Pod. No, don't get me wrong. I love the Drop Pod. It's an amazing kit. It was awesome when it came out, mostly because you didn't have to spend $80+ at Forge World to buy a resin one. But that being said, this thing is definitely designed on the computer. So if you don't scrape away every little seam, every little gap, make sure everything is as flush as you can make it, you are going to have problems when you go to assemble this pod. And I'm sure we've all had our problems with the pod. I know the first one I put together was pretty much garbage. And well, you know, there's an easy way and there's a right way to put these things together. And there's a few tricks I can teach you that will pretty much ensure that every pod you ever put together from here on out will go super quick and easy, because, you know, there's always tricks to every one of these kits. And I swear I probably assembled 50 of these things. I know I've at least done 20. I've done 10 twice for myself. I'm working on 7 more for a commission, and I know I've helped a lot of other people along the way. So probably more towards 30. But I feel like I put a few together for my day. So I want to show you what I've learned as well. So that's what today's tutorial is all about. Hopefully it helps you guys out a lot. Talking about tutorials, if you haven't already done so, head on over to thelongwar.net. We're officially launching the new site this week. And what it is, it's basically a portal for early access to all of our tutorial and videos. We also have some exclusive content over there and a download section. It's not quite as big as we would like it to be, but we're adding to it a ton. And we got big plans for this thing. So not only do you get to help bring the hobby back yourself, learn how to model like a pro, up your paint game, play better on the table, but you get exclusive content. You help support all of the projects we're doing here as well, between Next Level Painting, Spiky Bits, and the Long War Battle Reports themselves. So hop on over there if you haven't already and become a veteran of the Long War today for free, of course. And we're going to take a look at the latest tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so here we go. Just grabbing the normal Space Marine Drop Pod box, tearing right into it. It's you know, it's kind of cool seeing this come out in plastic. It's got all those insides and everything, and I know I know you're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna make it all. Well, I'm not gonna show you how to make it all. I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing this for a commission, so I'm not gonna do all the harnesses and all the crazy insides and the globe. I am gonna do the weapon systems inside. Right there, kind of some of the tools I'm gonna use. You got magnets, your clippers, you got a GW seam scraper, which is really nice, then a normal X-Acto blade, just busting out the sprues, getting ready to go at it. Like I said, pretty much not going to do the insides, and because it takes just as long to do the insides as it does to do the whole vehicle itself. So, you know, in the commission painting game, I'm not getting paid for that, so I'm not going to do it. Although everybody pretty much knows if you shoot through a drop pod, you're going to get the 5-up save. So if anybody says otherwise, you call me up and I will come and I'll straighten it out for you. Make sure when you're clipping stuff out of sprues that you get kind of far away from the actual part, but just enough of a nub so you're not going to damage the part that you're clipping off. Unfortunately, with this kind of kit, you're going to leave rather large nubs still on the most of the parts themselves. So you're gonna have to go in with the X-Acto blade. Always remember to switch out your blades for most products, or for most projects, so you get a nice fresh clean blade, so you're not working with a dull blade and kind of tricking yourself. That actually leads to more cuts than actually having sharp blades, I found. Like tricking myself and then changing the blade, I always get myself right afterwards. So I always try to get a nice sharp blade for the start of every project that I can. Try to change it as frequent as possible. So just using the normal actual X-Acto blade itself. So I'm just gonna go in there and kind of hit those nubs flush. Obviously, this is a pretty bad idea. One little slip, I'm gonna go right into my freaking thumb. And let me tell you how much scar tissue I have on my thumb. I'm looking at my thumb right now, and I can see distinctly at least 10 scars healed up on this thing. I'm sure my fingerprint changes all the time. So do not try that at home. Do not cut your parts like this. I just do it because I'm used to it and I'm an idiot. Now, when it comes to the seam scraper, that's a little bit easier to use. Once you get those nubs off, just go in there with the seam scraper and you're just going to kind of very gently just kind of, you know, pull it along the part that you're trying to scrape the seam. It's very easy tool. It's not going to be able to get in and destroy really thick, hard mold lines like on harder plastic, but on something that's about this size, it's going to work. Now you saw that bristle brush right there. That is a plastic bristle brush. You always want to make sure that you don't use something with like a whole bunch of metal on it, because you don't want to mar the surface of whatever you're working with, be it resin or plastic or fine cast or whatever. So get you a nice plastic bristle brush. You can probably use your toothbrush, you know, your old toothbrush, don't throw it out. You know, there's always a use for that to clean your airbrush or to work on your parts there. And then just you kind of see it. I wish I worked this fast. I don't. I sped it up for the camera, for the video rather. But just go to town. Just hit all those mold lines. On this particular kit, it's very easy to find the mold lines because it's pretty much perpendicular with the plane of the up down vertical axis of the model. So once I got those nubs off, I went in there with the seam scraper and just nugged it out. Just this super boring part, but you got to do it. You got to make sure it's nice and tight. So I'm gonna grab my plastic glue, just hit a bead down into the back of the inside of the door, and you want to make sure that you get around that kind of bottom piece there. You don't want to get too crazy with it because you don't want it to get on those nubs to actually lock into the bottom assembly of the actual drop pod itself, but just kind of getting in there and making a little crazy zigzag pattern with it. Then just gonna hit it up, plop it right in, make sure you get a good seal. Now, it's inevitable that a little bit's gonna squirt out. Just grab you a damp paper towel and just kind of get in there and get it up. Keep an eye on it. You know, once that plastic glue dries, it's super easy to scrape off. Easy game, easy life, as far as I'm concerned. This particular part here is gonna require some rubber bands. It's just that's just the way it's gonna be. So use about 3 rubber bands per door frame. Just nug it all out. Next up, we are going to magnetize the inside weapon system, because personally I think it's kind of silly to do. I would just glue the storm bolter in there, but I can understand with future addition changes, you never know, the missile launcher might get really good. But the client wanted it that way, so I went ahead and magnetized it. Flashed up on the screen there a magnetization tutorial that we did a while back. You can check that out. This one's super easy though. I put 2 small magnets of equal polarization inside both of the parts, and then a larger magnet kind of drilled out the center support bracket right there, and just did it up. Next up, basically your basic assembly, which is super easy. I'm not going to give you all the parts in this video, as you've probably noticed. Like, it's not a step-by-step thing. It's kind of more of a tips and tricks. So you're just going to have to get to this point yourself, which is super easy. You just glue the top to the bottom of the heat shield there, and you want to make sure that you don't put extra glue so that the doors still move freely. It's a very simple process. You don't have to worry about like stuff fitting correctly and things like that. The fins actually attach. I'm going to put 2 beads of glue here at the top and the bottom. The fins are pretty easy to attach. You just lock it in at the bottom, and you want to make sure you line up the tops with that thruster assembly right there at the top that I've already magnetized. Make sure you follow the instructions for all of this, because just getting that assembly done at the top is kind of, and still freely rotating, is very somewhat complicated for most newer, I guess, users or modelers. So it's a little bit difficult for some people. I didn't show you that because I wanted to show you basically how I did the magnetization. I want to show you the super crazy trick here in a minute of how to get these doors to stay locked in place. So just gonna put in those little retaining plates onto the thruster assembly. Got a little extra glue there, no big deal. Put some glue on the insides because that's gonna lock into the fin right there. And if you just give it a second, it will support itself with its weight upright. And you didn't see it, but right there, this is literally 2 seconds later, so you can tell it kind of works. I'm just going to start assembling fins. Put those 2 little retaining plates in, put a fin in, put the retaining plate in, put a fin in, and by that point, boom, you've got 5 of them there, and you're good to go. Now, at this point, you're definitely going to want to go on to your next pod, put a bunch of rubber bands on here. You don't want them too tight because you don't want to torque the assembly itself. So I'm just going to put 3 rubber bands on here, really loose. Don't worry about the doors at this point. The doors are just going to do what the doors do for this point. We have not secured them down. Just let them be. We're more worried about attaching the fins and making sure that they line up correctly with the thruster assembly at the top, or the turbofan, whatever you want to call it, and the actual heat shield assembly at the bottom. So that's one and done. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to slide this aside, give it time to dry, and make sure that everything's super tight. Now I'm going to come back to it after everything's dry, well, at least tacky, and I'm just going to kind of get in here and make sure everything's lined up good. And now this is where we're going to do some magic. This is where a lot of people's drop pods get messed up. So this first door is pretty flush. I'm just going to kind of pop it in, kind of like attaching a pulled appendage back into its joint. Just kind of pop it in from the bottom. Next one, super easy. I just popped it right in with one thumb. But you're really going to see what I'm doing here in this next frame. I just line it up and push it in with 2 fingers at the bottom. And what it's going to do, it's going to push it up over the lip at the bottom and lock it in place. Right there, just did it again. And here's the last one. And once you do that, that actually sets it. So it's going to stay in that position and retain that shape forever. So this is the one part that a lot of people don't do. They don't know to do. They don't put it in an instruction manual, but you just got to do it. You basically got to set that joint. It's just like setting a joint in your arm or your leg or anything like that that can get pulled out. Then you just add whatever icons, chapter icons you want. I think there's some thrusters on the bottom too. Didn't really show you how to do those. It's super easy. Just follow the instruction manual. But the big key here is setting those doors, in my opinion. So if you do everything right, when you pull it down, yes, there is going to be an opening in the middle, but there is nearly 3/8 of an inch almost. Oh, and the top piece rotates there where you're going to magnetize the gun in. As long as you assemble that correctly, super easy. Again, following the instruction manual, good to go. So it's a really easy project. Just, from left to right, they should have cover on the other side of this vehicle. Super easy. So there it is, guys. If you haven't done so already, head on over to thelongwar.net. That's where the battle reports live. We just launched the new site as well that features exclusive content from both Next Level Painting and Spiky Bits. You get early access by becoming a veteran of the Long War. Of course, it's free. So head on over there and check that out today. Yo, Hobby Maniacs, thanks for checking out my channel. Don't forget, there's tons of other tutorials, unboxings, and tips and tactics videos on here as well. And make sure you visit my best friend Kenny B's fresh hobby channel over on Next Level Painting.